Yesterday we read the first half of Pippi Longstocking. We're going to read, we read the first part of chapter 11 of Pippi Longstocking. Now we're going to read the second part of Pippi Longstocking. So Anika and Tommy were invited to Pippi's birthday, and Tommy had said that when his parents had parties, the gentlemen, or the boys, had cards telling them who to take in to dinner, kind of like who to escort into dinner. So it was decided that Tommy was going to escort Pippi to dinner, Mr. Nilsson, the monkey, was going to escort Anika to dinner, and the horse had just been given his card, who said he would stay in the corner, since he couldn't sit at the table, and he would have his cakes and sugar in the corner. Pippi held the card under the horse's nose and said, "Read this and see what you think of it." As the horse had no objection to make, Tommy offered Pippi his arm, and they walked to the table. Mr. Nilsson showed no intention of offering his arm to Anika, so she took a firm hold of him and lifted him up to the table. But he didn't want to sit on a chair. He insisted on sitting right on the table. Nor did he want any chocolate with whipped cream. But when Pippi poured water in his cup, he took it in both hands and drank. Anika and Tommy and Pippi ate and ate, and Anika said that if these cakes were the kind they had in China, then she intended to move to China when she grew up. When Mr. Nilsson had emptied his cup, he turned it upside down and put it on his head. When Pippi saw that, she did the same. But as she had not drunk quite all of her chocolate, a little stream ran down on her forehead and over her nose. She caught it with her tongue and lapped it all up. "Waste not, want not," she said. Here is a picture of them at the party. There's Pippi with the cup on her head and Mr. Nilsson with the cup on his head. You can see a little bit dripping down Pippi's face. Tommy and Anika licked their cups clean before they put them on their heads. When everybody had enough and their horse had had his share, Pippi took hold of all four corners of the tablecloth and lifted it up so that the cups and plates tumbled over each other as if they were in a sack. Then she stuffed the whole bundle in the wood box. "I always like to tidy up a little as soon as I've eaten," she said. Then it was time for games. Pippi suggested that they play a game called Don't Touch the Floor. It was very simple. The only thing one had to do was walk all around the kitchen without once stepping on the floor. Pippi skipped around in the twinkling of an eye, and even for Tommy and Anika, it was quite easy. You began on the drain board, and if you stretched your legs enough, it was possible to step on the back of the stove. From the stove to the wood box, and from the wood box to the hat shelf, and down onto the table, and from there across two chairs to the corner cupboard. Between the corner cupboard and the drain board was a distance of several feet, but luckily there stood the horse, and if you climbed up on him and at the tail end and slid off at the head end, making quick turn at exactly the right moment, you landed exactly on the drain board. So they're running around the kitchen or walking around the kitchen, trying not to touch the floor. I have a connection to this. I don't play this game, but my kids do. But they don't call it walk around the kitchen and don't touch the floor. They call it the floor's lava. Y'all ever played that game where you can't touch the floor because the floor is lava? So you jump on couches or tables or whatever? Yeah. I don't really like that game, but my kids play it. When they had played this game for a while, and Anika's dress was no longer her next best dress, but her next best one, and Tommy had become as black as a chimney sweep, and then they decided to think up something else. "Suppose we go in the attic and visit the ghosts," suggested Pippi. Anika gasped. Are there really ghosts in the attic?" she asked. "Are there ghosts? Millions," said Pippi. "It's just swarming with all sorts of ghosts and spirits. You trip over them wherever you walk. Shall we go up?" "Oh, Pippi," said Anika, and looked reproachfully at her. Reproachfully. Is that a word you don't know you could put on your book log? "Mama says there aren't any such things as ghosts and goblins," said Tommy boldly. "And well she might," said Pippi, "because there aren't anywhere else. All the ghosts in the world live in my attic, and it doesn't pay to try to make them move. But they aren't dangerous. They just pinch you in the arm so you get black and blue, and they howl. And they play ninepins with their heads. Do they really play ninepins with their heads? Sure, that's just what they do, said Pippi. Come on, let's go up and talk with them. I'm good at playing the ninepins. Ninepins is bowling, because how many pins do you have when you bowl? And the ghost played ninepins with their heads. So they took their head off and rolled it. Tommy didn't want to show that he was frightened, and in a way he really did want to see a ghost. That would be something to tell the boys at school. Besides, he consoled himself with the thought that the ghost probably wouldn't dare to hurt Pippi. He decided to go along. Poor Anika didn't want to go under any circumstances, but then she happened to think that a little tiny ghost might sneak downstairs while she was sitting alone in the kitchen. That decided the matter. Better to be with Pippi and Tommy among thousands of ghosts than alone in the kitchen with even the tiniest little ghost child. Pippi went first. She opened the door to the attic stairs. It was pitch dark there. Tommy took a firm grip on Pippi, and Anika took an even firmer grip on Tommy. And so they went up. The stairs creaked and squeaked with every step. Tommy began to wonder if it would have been better to stay down in the kitchen. And Anika didn't need to wonder. She was sure of it. At last they came to the top of the stairs and stood in the attic. It was pitch dark there too, except there was a little moonbeam shown on the floor. There were sighs and mysterious noises in every corner when the wind blew through the cracks. "Hi, all you ghosts!" shrieked Pippi. But if there was any ghost there, he certainly didn't answer. "Well, I might have known," said Pippi. "They've gone to a council meeting of the Ghost and Goblin Society." Anika sighed with relief and hoped that the meeting would last a long time. But just then an awful sound came from one of the corners of the attic. "Ooh," it said. And a moment later, Tommy saw something come rushing toward him in the dimness. He felt it brush his forehead and saw something disappear through a little window that stood open. He shrieked to high heaven, "A ghost! A ghost!" And Anita shrieked with him. "That poor thing will be late for the meeting," said Pippi. "If it was a ghost, and not an owl. For that matter, there aren't any ghosts," she continued for a while. "If anybody insists that there are ghosts, I'll tweak them in the nose." "Yes, but you said yourself," said Anika. "Is that so? Did I?" said Pippi. "Well then, I'll certainly tweak my own nose." And she took a firm grip of her nose and tweaked it. After that, Tommy and Anika felt a little calmer. In fact, they were now so courageous that they ventured to go up to the window and look out in the garden. Big dark clouds sailed through the sky and did their best to hide the moon. And the wind sighed in the trees. That's personification again. The wind sighed. Tommy and Anika turned around. But then, oh horrors, they saw a white figure coming toward them. "A ghost!" shrieked Tommy wildly. Anika was so scared she couldn't even shriek. The ghost came nearer and nearer. Tommy and Anika hugged each other and shut their eyes. But then they heard the ghost say, "Look what I found! Papa's nightshirt in an old sea chest over here. If I hem it up around the bottom, I can wear it." It's not a ghost. It's Pippi. Pippi came up to them with the nightshirt dancing around her legs. "Oh, Pippi, I could have died of fright," said Anika. "But nightshirts aren't dangerous," Pippi assured her. "They don't bite anyone, except in self-defense." Pippi now decided to examine the sea chest thoroughly. She lifted it up and carried it over to the window and opened the cover, so that what little moonlight there was fell on the contents of the chest. There were a great many old clothes which she threw out onto the attic floor. There were a telescope, a few books, 3 pistols, a sword, and a bag of gold pieces. "Tiddly-palm and piddly-day," said Pippi contentedly. "It's so exciting," said Tommy. Pippi gathered everything in that nightshirt, and down they went into the kitchen again. Anika was perfectly satisfied to leave the attic. "Never let children handle firearms," said Pippi, and took a pistol in each hand and prepared to fire. "Otherwise, some accident can seriously happen," she said, shooting off both pistols at once. "That was a good bang," she announced, and looked up at the ceiling. The bullets had made 2 holes. She just put 2 holes in her ceiling with guns? Crazy kid. "Who knows," she said hopefully. "Perhaps the bullets have gone right through the ceiling and hit some ghost in the legs. That will teach them to think twice before they set out to scare any innocent little children again. Because even if there aren't any ghosts, they don't need to go round scaring folks out of their wits, I should think. Would each of you like a pistol?" she asked. Tommy was enchanted, and Anika also very much wanted a pistol, provided it wasn't loaded. "Now, we can organize a robber band if we want to," said Pippi. She held the telescope up to her eyes. "With this, I can almost see the fleas in South America, I think," she continued. "And it'll be good to have if we do organize a robber band." Just then, there was a knock at the door. It was Tommy and Anika's father, who had come to take them home. It was long past their bedtime. He said, Tommy and Anika hurried to say thank you, bid Pippi goodbye, and collect all their belongings, the flute, the brooch, and the pistols. Pippi followed her guests out to the porch and watched them disappear through the garden. They turned around to wave. The light from inside shone on her. There she stood with her stiff red braids, dressed in her father's nightshirt, which billowed around her feet. In one hand she held a pistol, and in the other the sword. She saluted with it. When Tommy, Anika, and their father reached the gate, they heard her calling. They stopped to listen. The wind whistled through the trees so they could just barely hear what she said. "I'm going to be a pirate when I grow up," she cried. "Are you?" And that is the end. Interesting story. So it seems that our character, Pippi Longstocking, was lonely at the beginning of the story. And Anika and Tommy made friends with her once they found out someone was living there. And they go on many crazy adventures together. Some of them real, like when Pippi went to over to their house for the party and she was acting crazy. And some of them make-believe, like the ghost in the attic. Make sure that you make a connection to, or that you write on some part of your book log for today. On Monday, you will take a test on Pippi Longstocking. It should already be on Google Classroom, so if you'd like to take it early, you can.